So, like I said, we are in Lesson 8 tonight. Again, there are our sheets in the back for Lesson 8 and for Lesson 9 if you want to grab one. We're going to be starting on question 3 tonight, which takes us to Psalm 88. So if you want to turn to Psalm 88, your Bibles. All right, Psalm 88. And I'm going to go ahead and read this for us this evening. Psalm 88, we'll read all 18 verses. O Lord, God of my salvation, I cry out day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draws near to Sheol. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am a man who has no strength, like one set loose among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, like those whom you remember no more, for they are cut off from your hand. You have put me in the depths of the pit, in the regions dark and deep. Your wrath lies heavy upon me, and you overwhelm me with all your waves. Selah. You have caused my companions to shun me. You have made me a horror to them. I am shut in so that I cannot escape. My eye grows dim through sorrow. Every day I call upon you, O Lord. I spread out my hands to you. Do you work wonders for the dead? Do the departed rise up to praise you? Selah. Is your steadfast love declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in Abaddon? Are your wonders known in the darkness, or your righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But I, O Lord, cry to you. In the morning my prayer comes before you. O Lord, why do you cast my soul away? Why do you hide your face from me? Afflicted and close to death from my youth up, I suffer your terrors. I am helpless. Your wrath has swept over me. Your dreadful assaults destroy me. They surround me like a flood. All day long they close in on me together. You have caused my beloved and my friend to shun me. My companions have become darkness. All right, so I want to get into these questions in a minute here. But what's different about this psalm than maybe many of the other psalms or some of the other psalms you're familiar with? What stands out to you?
No happy ending.
No happy ending. Yeah. What were you going to say, Jim? Yeah. Most of the psalms will cover some similar things, right? David will be talking about being oppressed and all these things that are happening to him, and then he at the end is like, but I turn to you. I know you will rescue me, right? We get kind of this positive note at the end. But there isn't one in Psalm 88, right? He just lays out the situation and then he just leaves it there, right? So what do you think he took away from this? So he's written this. What do you think he took away from this?
Might be the way it is. And
Yeah.
There might not be a silver lining in this life.
Yeah.
And just sometimes it's just bad and it get better.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that comes out here is his helplessness, right? Just an acknowledgement. I can't fix this. I can't solve this. And so far, you, God, have not. So here I sit, right? And this is what it is. Well, what else do you think? What else do you think he might have taken away from this prayer? Maybe some more positive things. Yeah, great. Yeah. That he could do this. That he could take his cares and concerns to God. That he could take his pain, his everything he's going through, he could take it to a God that hears. Yeah, I think there's definitely something in that. Even without a specific request right? What does David ask for in this prayer? What's he ask God for in this prayer?
Just to hear his back.
Yeah, not really anything, right? He just says, this is what's happening. This is how it feels. So he's not even asking God to do anything, right? It reminds me of kind of what Hezekiah did, where he spread the letter out before God. Like, I'm just gonna tell you how I feel. I'm just gonna tell you what's going on for me, right? And what it's like for me. And I'm just gonna trust you to do what's right in that. So I think there definitely is, the ability to express those fears and those worries and that pain to God, and to be heard. What else? Yeah.
Like persistent reliance on God. Like no matter how long it is before you get an answer or feels God's presence or whatever it is that he's looking for, he just keeps going back to God.
Yeah, absolutely. He could just continue to do this. So he could just keep praying this same prayer over and over again, right? Or it could be different, but he could just keep coming back to God, right? And what does Jesus tell us about persistence in prayer?
Sometimes it works.
Yeah, sometimes it works, and God wants us to what? Keep praying, right? So whether he provides the deliverance that first time, or the 1,000th time, or not during our lifetime, right? It's to continue in prayer. So he tells that story, right, about the persistent widow. She just kept pestering him until finally he gave her justice, and he's like, yeah, but God cares about you, right? Even an unjust man will do this, but think about your God who loves you, how you should be persistent in prayer with him. Thinking about this as a communication, right? As a two-sided thing, right? This is our side of it. And then we go and we see what God offers as comfort, right? But we have that chance to lay it out there and just say, this is what I'm feeling. Ernie?
The act of prayer itself is beneficial to us.
Yeah.
And so sometimes God requires that persistence from us because the very act of praying is what he's wanting us to do for our benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because in prayer we humble ourselves. In prayer we acknowledge our helplessness. Because in prayer we take stock of things, right? Like, I agree, all of those things that we get from prayer, and the comfort. I think even though there's no positive in here, there's the comfort of having laid it at the feet of God and saying, well, I've been carrying this around, and now I'm gonna give it to God and not carry it around like this anymore, right? Or at least for right now, right? I might bring it back to him again because I found out that I picked it back up, right? But the act of just bringing it to God should give us comfort. We should receive comfort just from the fact that we've prayed about it. And again, I think you see that throughout, and that's why so many of the Psalms have that kind of turn in it where everything's bad, but I trust in you, God. But, I think this is a great example of, sometimes our prayer is just, this is how I feel, God. This is what's happening to me. And I don't know what to do except to tell you. I don't have a suggestion, right? I might ask for something, but there might be times where I say, I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is, but you do. So here's all my fear. Here's all that I'm feeling, and I'm just going to let you do what's right, because I know you will. Greg?
When you're praying to God, so right away you're acknowledging that He's in control. When you're not praying, you're thinking about other things. You might be
Right.
afraid of other people or the circumstances. It's a very active prayer. If you focus on the one and the only one who really can help you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good, John.
I think I like sense a lot of emotion here.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's a way to help process that too.
Yeah.
Just so you're not dragging it everywhere else with you, you're leaving it where who can take care of it, God.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly right. He's clearly bringing this emotion with him where he's going, and so now this is the opportunity for him to lay it out for God. Yeah, Jim.
Like when I read this, I feel like he's been like afflicted for a long time. Because it just says, I have been afflicted and ready to die from my youth. And so he's like going back when he was a young, maybe child, and he prayed this prayer for probably for a long time. And I feel like he when he's writing this song, that he feels like maybe he has been forgotten.
Yeah.
He's lonely. And like verse 8, it says, you have put away my acquaintances far from me. You have made me an abomination to them.
Yeah.
Like even like everybody is away from him.
Yeah.
He's lonely.
Yeah.
And then in verse 14, Lord, why do you cast off my soul? Why do you hide your face from me? I have been afflicted and ready to die from my youth. I suffer your terrors. I'm distraught.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like my brother over there said, like, there's tons of emotion in here. I
Yeah.
just feel like he's just overwhelmed with whatever is afflicting him from such a young age.
Yeah.
Maybe he was sick. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Or it's because it's poetry, and in the midst of whatever's happening now, he's looking back and he's like, my life has been filled with conflict and with difficulty, right? Like I've been oppressed all my life, if you look at it a certain way, right? My brothers were mean to me. Remember, they yelled at me when I was just trying to do the right thing about Goliath. Like all those things that happened, it feels like it piles up. And so he is, I think, like Ernie said, he's processing it, or like Jonathan said, he's processing it. He's unburdening himself. He's handing it off to God, right? And he, in this moment, I think sometimes we're not afraid, but we're maybe hesitant to. We don't want to be complainers, right? Is David complaining? Is he grumbling?
Yes, something to it.
Yeah.
But I think what you don't see, that's what you don't see in the Psalms.
Yeah.
Because you're not fixing this, I'm not going to serve you anymore.
Right.
I think that's the key in this, is you just, in one sense you are complaining.
Right.
But we come to God complaining about things He can fix.
Right.
And acknowledging how we feel about things. And I just think what you do is sometimes you're not even asking for a specific fix. You're just pouring your heart out because you're crushed by the events of life.
Yeah.
And maybe directly associated with your service to God. Maybe that's why his friends despise him and all those things. And you just need to tell God that, and you're like, but I'm still in. I'm going to keep doing the right thing, but man, it's hard. Would you give me a break?
Yeah, it feels bad right now. Yeah, Ernie.
In the Hebrew, there's a couple of different words that are translated as complain, at least like the King James describes it used. And in one sense, you have the Israelites murmuring and complaining.
Right.
That's that constant nagging or whatever. And God said, don't do that.
Yeah.
And then you have a different word, which we find in like 1 Samuel 1, where Samuel's mother is just in deep sorrow and she's praying and whatever. And that kind
Yeah.
And then we know that this is the kind of bringing our cares to God that He tells us to do.
Right.
Because we know that in the book of Job, the whole point of the book of Job is that he underwent horrifying and bad things and remained faithful.
Right.
It says that he did all this and never sinned. He didn't sin. And so when it talks about him complaining, he uses the same word it does in 1 Samuel. But Job, he says, I open my mouth to complain. He's really just, it's more of a beseeching God, can you please tell me what I need to do? Why am I under
Why is this happening?
Yeah. So it's not bad in that sense.
Yeah, the complaining and the murmuring of the Israelites is rooted in what? Selfishness, ingratitude, lack of faith, right? They were testing God. That's how he always saw it. Because you're like, well, is God even here? Is God even going to help us? Right? That's not what this is. This is someone saying, I do trust in you, which is why I'm telling you this. I do trust in you as someone who loves me and is able to fix these problems. That's why I'm telling you. So I don't think we should ever be hesitant to turn to God and to acknowledge when we're afraid, because we're turning to God because we trust Him. We're turning that fear into trust, right? Or when we feel like this, because we're turning that feeling into trust. So going in prayer is the means, and many of you have already said it, the means by which we change that narrative, we change that perspective into trust. So we should, if we feel like this, we should be talking to God about it, right? We should be talking to God about our fear. It's okay to be afraid of things if it turns to humility and trust. It's okay to complain like this when it turns to humility and trust, right? And so I think we need to give ourselves a break sometimes and be like, that's okay. That's okay for me to do that. God wants me to do that. I mean, what was Jesus praying in the garden? First, what? Let this cup pass. Right? Is that not a kind of complaint? Right? I don't want this. I don't want to do this. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours. Right? And if that's what's going on here, then that's the right mindset. And we're going to get comfort and peace from that. And we're going to learn trust through the act of praying. Because we've said we're just going to trust God about this situation. So I think that's just an interesting psalm. Again, it's a little bit different in that way.
Yeah, I think it doesn't do any good if I don't say it and if I feel it in my heart.
Yeah.
So if I think, well, I feel this way, but I can't dare say it to God, then I've already missed the whole idea that God knows the thoughts and intentions of our hearts.
Right.
So I think honest expression about what's in my heart, even if it's not right. I know I feel this way, Father. Forgive me for being ungrateful or whatever. I don't think that's necessary in this psalm, but I'm saying I think honesty with God.
Yes.
There may be things I can't talk to other people about. David said that in Psalm 73. If I spoke thus, I'd have betrayed a generation of my people. Here I am the king. I can't just go out and tell everybody, you know what, today I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm worried. You can't do that when you're in certain positions. You can't as a parent, you can't really pour out your heart to your 8-year-old child.
Right.
So there are things inside me that I maybe can only let go to God. It's there. And if I think somehow by not expressing what's there is going to make me okay with God, then I miss the whole point.
Yeah.
It's the honest expression of how I feel. That's why the Psalms are so powerful. Just an honest expression of today, this is how I feel. Maybe he's exaggerating.
Right.
Job exaggerated. Job said, I was taking care of widows from my mother's womb.
Right.
Well, no, you weren't, Job. And David said in Psalm 51, I've been a sinner since my mother's womb. Well, you weren't, David. When you were a little baby, you weren't sinning.
Right.
But exaggeration for effect is part of what we do in prayer. I feel like I've never had a great God.
Right.
That's kind of what he's saying, I think, from my youth.
Yeah.
It's just been like this my whole life. My whole life's been hard. It's just not been fair the whole time. We often exaggerate when we get in these kind of places mentally about things. But we pour that out to God, and we trust that God's not up there trying to say, oh, you said that word wrong, zap.
Right.
Get you. It's, let me hear what you already believe in your heart.
Right.
Confess it to me.
Yeah.
That's what confession is, right? Just the idea of agreeing. God knows it's there. Let me just say it to him, and it'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
It may bring about some corrective action. Maybe God needs to correct my bad thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will come into my life that will correct that. But I think this is one of the best songs to show that our relationship with God is real. Because you go to Jeremiah and you read Jeremiah, it's like he's this way the whole book.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah, but he doesn't lay it out like this.
No. He's my head's a fountain of tears.
Right.
I'm just surrounded by a bunch of bums.
Yeah.
That none of them want to do right.
Right.
And look where you put me, God. And there's no hope. You make me go do this every day. And it's not like Jeremiah could say, you know what, for 5 years I got to do this, and then it's going to be all great. You're going to let me go to somewhere else, and I'm not going to have to deal with it. I think Jeremiah had a pessimistic life.
Yeah.
Because that's what God assigned him.
Yeah.
And we can't think that every time it's just going to get better.
Right.
Getting better is trusting in God, and even if my life is this way, I'm going to serve you, and you are God, and you have the right to let me go through this, even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
And will I submit to you in the midst of feeling this way? I think that's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the best possible outcome of this prayer?
That there is some real change that happens in his life, that people stop hating him, that God answers it in a way that relieves him, instead of God coming to him and saying, hey, guess what? I'm not going to relieve you. This is the way your life's going to be. Serve me.
So I would say that's the second best outcome. The first best outcome is more faith, more trust, right? If the writer walks away with more trust in God, that's the best possible outcome. Because situations are going to change. I mean, he's talking about this all his life. So maybe it gets better for a little bit and then it goes back to bad again. Well, if you didn't walk away with more trust, then you're no better off. But if you got more trust, whether the situation changed or not, then you're better off. Because you can handle the next thing. You can deal with what's now and what's next. Thinking about Jeremiah, we talked a lot about this, the men's Bible study on Sunday, just all the prophets and Paul and all these people where God was like, no, like your life is going to be bad. That's what I'm assigning to you, right? Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Hosea, Paul, right? Like all these people that God's like, no, this, I'm telling you, I don't have good things for you in this life. So what you need is trust. You need to trust me more and better. And if you can learn to do that through prayer, through saying, God, this is what's happening. God, I trust you. Then you will improve. You will deal with what's happening better. And the next thing won't shake you as much. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. All right, let's go to Philippians chapter 1. A little bit more pessimism. Somebody read for us verses 19 through 26. Yeah, go ahead, Jonathan.
For I know that this will turn out for my deliverance through your prayers and the provision of the Spirit of Jesus Christ, according to my earnest expectation and hope that I will not be put to shame in anything, but that with all boldness Christ will even now, as always, be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. But if I am to live on in the flesh, this will mean fruitful labor for me, and I do not know which to choose. But I am hard-pressed in both directions, having desire to depart and be with Christ, for that is very much better, yet to remain on in the flesh is more necessary for your sake. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that your proud confidence in me may abound in Christ Jesus through my coming to you again. Okay, so what was Paul's situation? What situation did Paul find himself in? Where was he? In prison. Okay. Awaiting what? What's that? Yeah, death. He's in prison. He's expecting to be executed. Right? I mean, that's what I'm getting from this. Right? He's not just, talking about dying of old age, but like I'm expecting, my anticipation is that they'll kill me. Right? So that's a reasonable expectation that Paul had in the current situation. Okay? So he then talks to the Philippians, and he talks about their prayer. Right? That's what he's talking about, verse 19, right? I know through your prayers and the help of the Spirit what will happen. Yeah, I'll get out of prison. They won't execute me, and they'll release me. Because of what? Yeah.
I hope that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and based on their prayers, right? It's his hope. It's his hope based on their prayers. He's like, you've been praying for it. I've been praying for it. And I have every reason to expect, though I'm under the sentence of death, that they'll let me go because of your prayer. Because that's a thing that God can do, right? He's done it before, right? And much wilder things than that, right? Think about with Peter, right? That's where the exact same situation Peter was in, right? He was in prison. James had already been killed. And Herod's like, oh, they like it when I kill him. We'll do Peter next. And what does God do? Yeah, walks him out of the city. Walks him out of the prison, out of the city. And Peter is like, am I dreaming? Right? So Paul's like, well, yeah, God could absolutely do the same thing to me. And it doesn't matter that I have a sentence of death, and it doesn't matter that I'm in prison, and it doesn't matter how sure anything is according to the law. With God, I could definitely just be released and not pay any penalty. Right? God can definitely make that happen. Okay? But then he says, okay, so now I've got I'm torn between these things, because if I die, then what? I get to be with Christ, which he says is far better. Like, I love you, but I would much rather be with Jesus. Right? Fair, Paul. Okay? But if I stay, I can do more work. There's more I can do for God if he releases me, if he allows me to live. And so I'm kind of torn between the two, because whether I die or I live, then God gets glorified, and I'm not dependent on God choosing one or the other for me to trust him. Right? Well, if God lets me live, then I will trust God. He says it really doesn't matter, right? Again, kind of reminds me of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. King, we don't really even have to talk about this anymore. God can deliver us, even if he doesn't. We're not going to bow down to your thing, right? It really doesn't matter. We trust God. So that's where Paul is. I trust God, right? But at the end, he says, verse 25, he's convinced that it would be more profitable for him to live and serve God more, that he's like, well, I think that's what God's probably going to do. Right? That's now that I've done the math, it seems like that's what God will do. And bring glory to him through that. So he is, basically, I'm confident that that's your prayers will accomplish what you want as long as the Spirit is willing. And then I will be able to come and teach you more, and we'll be able to work more. Right? But he looks at it and says, prayer's enough. Prayer's enough to change the situation. Right? That is sufficient. You all praying for me is sufficient for the Roman law to be completely overthrown. Right? It's sufficient for this impossible thing to happen. That's kind of our theme, right? That's what Hezekiah saw, right? That's what Jehoshaphat did, right? We just need prayer. And so Paul says, yeah, well, just like with them, prayer is enough. That's all we need. And you're doing it, and I know, so I'm confident God will deliver me. I don't need to worry about it. And whatever God decides to do, whatever's within his will, I trust him. He'll make the right call. There's no losing for me in this situation, right? Which is what he's kind of spelling out here. I win if I live. I win if I die, right? They really can't hurt me, right? What did Jesus tell them? Not to fear. Yeah, don't fear those that can harm the body. Fear the one that can destroy the soul. Like, you don't need to be worried about body. You die and you're with me. You live and you serve me, right? Like how all the Christian martyrs that went through all the things that they did, right? Paul himself as Saul of Tarsus, arresting them and having them executed and all kinds of horrible things. But they got it, right? They win either way. So that's how Paul looks at it. The suffering really doesn't matter, because the suffering will either lead to more trust, right, or death and being with him. And so whichever one of those things happens, my faith is in him. My trust is in him. The only way I lose is if I lose my trust. Right? If I lose my endurance, then I lose it all. But if I hold on to my endurance, then there's really not a bad outcome, right? With whatever it is that we're facing, whatever we're afraid of. All right, let's go into number 5. Last questions here. Consider how you approach fearful situations and oppression. Is prayer your first thought or your last? Do you try to resolve the issue first or turn to God first? How can you approach things differently? Right, so what do you think about that? First resort prayer, or something that we'll turn to when necessary? In case of emergency, turn to prayer. What do you think?
I think if we're honest, probably most of us, myself, it's more like I know what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm trying to get better at, and I know the direction I'm headed. But I mean, our whole lives are built on initially trying to solve things on our own.
Yeah.
And that becomes your go-to at some point, as you reach young adulthood. It's like, I got this. Let's take care of it. Don't need your mom. Don't need your dad. Just get out of the way. And it's like so many things that we learn the wrong patterns in our life. We then spend maybe the rest of our life trying to figure out how to just pray first, how to just go to God and ask Him before I try to solve 35 different ways that I've imagined.
Right. And it doesn't seem to matter how many times our way has failed, right, and brought worse results. We seem to not learn from it. I can't remember the situation, but I use it all the time with Daryl. Like, okay, if you hired someone to do this for you, to run your life, and this is where you were, right? Would you hire that person again? You would fire them on the spot. But we just keep we're just like, no, you get a promotion. You get to make all the decisions, right? We just keep turning to that same unreliable person, which is self, over and over and over again, instead of turning to God first. Yeah. Cooley?
Well, when I was a new Christian, and praying, I used to not give I would go to prayer to God, but it was the little things sometimes not, and I'd hang on to the big things.
Right.
For some reason, like the things that were wrestling with, and I don't know where I was, but I heard this man get up and give a presentation, and he says, God is not a penny ante. He's a Fortune 500 guy. And
Yeah.
he says, go to him with the big stuff.
Yeah.
And it just a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, I've been hanging on to these really heavy things, and it's like, yes, because it not only is it being able to go to him in prayer is such a comfort, but it takes that weight off of you.
Yeah.
You know, that he's heard you in that. It's being addressed, however way, whether it's a yay or a nay or whatever, he knows.
Yeah.
And it was like the best thing that I ever heard. It was like,
Yeah.
yes.
I'll challenge that and say he's both,
Yeah.
right? Like, because I sometimes we do the opposite, and we're like, well, we're going to pray about the big stuff, but the little stuff I got the little stuff under control. I don't really need to worry about that. My pantry and my fridge is full. Like, I don't really need to ask him for my daily bread, because I've managed that. God, you can step into this part. But it's really, going back to what Daryl was talking about earlier, just that total vulnerability of I need everything. I need everything, because the big things and the small things get in the way of what God wants me to do. So the little annoyances and the little things too, I need to go to God about. Right? I mean, you look at a lot of things that happen. Did it matter whether, because she was brought up earlier, did it matter in the grand scheme of things whether Hannah had a baby or not? Not at all. Right? In the grand scheme of things, it didn't matter. Right? Now, God used her son, used Samuel, right, to accomplish his purpose. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter whether Rachel had babies or not, right? The bloodline, the promises were taken care of. They were secured, right? So it didn't matter if Rachel had babies. So, like, all of these things, and yet, that seems like they're inconsequential things when you compare them to Hezekiah and the destruction of Jerusalem and God's promised land and the fall of the temple, right? All these things that would have happened if Assyria had taken Jerusalem, like, that seems big. And these other things really seem tiny, right? But God hears all those prayers. So the small prayers and the big prayers, right? It really doesn't matter the size of the thing. We really should just be going to God first all the time. Whatever we're talking about fear and oppression here. Whatever the thing is that we're afraid of, whether it's a silly thing, right? Please don't let there be a spider in this hole, right? Or whether it is something big, like please let us avoid going to war, right? Wherever it is on that spectrum, we go to God, because anything in there is interfering. Aaron.
Yeah, too, like, we need to think about smaller things as training ground for the big things.
Mm-hmm.
Get into areas of fear and oppression. If we haven't been training ourselves to go to God for the big thing or the little things, we'll very likely depend on ourselves for the big things.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things that we do with our children is we teach them to pray, in different ways, not so that they can just check the box of prayer, but it's to train them to, like, you need to acknowledge God's existence in your life in all of these different areas, and you know that He is your guide, and He is going to be your provider, and He's going to do all these things for you and help you through these areas of your life. And, you know, we're sitting there relying on ourselves constantly on the little things. When emotion overtakes us, we're not going to go to God in prayer.
Right.
It's just the reality of, because we're going to be thinking emotionally at that time, and we're not going to have a trained mindset to go to God first.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're gonna react in emotion, and we're real bad judges of the difference between small and big things too, right? Like we're the people who are like, yeah, well, I'm just going to go on this one date with this person. Like, that's not a big deal. And then next thing you know, you've married someone that's pulling you away from God, right? Like, well, that seemed like a small thing to you, but it actually was big. And we worry about huge stuff that will never happen, like alien invasions, right? And we're like real concerned about things. You know, however many big old comets have come by and people have lost their minds about, and like nothing happened. It's like we got real worried about that. We thought that was a big thing, but it actually wasn't anything at all. So we're real bad judges of that. And so we should just be going to God for everything, whatever the situation is. And again, fear and oppression, we're going to feel afraid about things. There are going to be things that we are concerned about, that we're worried about. And what God tells us to do in those situations is come to Him, right? That is the cure for worry, is coming to Him in prayer and thanksgiving, right? Counting our blessings, all of those things, but really trying to do that. And the goal, if you're hopefully, as we've been going through these things, our prayer lives are evolving, right? They're changing, but that's one of the challenges for this lesson, is thinking about how we approach those things. You know, are we doing that? Or am I finding myself, hey, I'm acting, or I'm about to act, and I haven't even prayed about this yet. I haven't even asked God to guide me or to relieve me, or I haven't looked to see if this is the way that God wants me to handle this. Yeah. Okay, you can say it anyways.
I just think it's more than, hey, you know what? When something bad happens, I got to remember to pray. That's true, but I think it's what it says is, I really don't have it locked in that I depend on God for everything.
Right.
If I'm in that mode in my life and some bad news comes, I'm on it.
Yeah.
I got to go to God about this. When something great happens in my life, I'm on it. I get a big raise at work. It's immediately.
Yeah.
God gave me that.
Right.
I don't deserve that. There are going to be layoffs at the company. I need to talk to God about that.
Right.
I can't control this.
Yeah.
And so that just shows a life that's dependent on God.
Right.
Prayer is the natural outflow of a life that's dependent on God.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks everybody. Lesson 9 next week.